Okay. Be safe. Arms. Order. Arms. Right. Face. Post.
I have seen pain resting on the shoulders of your name. Do you see the truth through all their lies? Do you see the world through troubled eyes? And if you want to talk about it anymore, lie here on the floor, cry on my shoulder. I'm a friend. I have seen birth, I have seen death, live to see a lover's final breath. Do you see my guilt? Should I feel fight? Is the fire of hesitation burning bright? And if you want to talk about it once again, on you I depend. I'll cry on your shoulder. You're a friend. You and I have lived through many things. I hold on to your heart. I wouldn't cry for anything. Don't go tearing your life apart. I have seen fear, I have seen faith, seen the look of anger on your face. And if you want to talk about what will be, come and sit with me. Cry on my shoulder. I'm a friend. And if you want
Good afternoon. I want to thank everyone for being here today on behalf of the family and all of his close friends. And we are here today to celebrate the life and remember James Postoak. On April 22nd, 2013, James Postoak made a sudden and unexpected exit from this world. James was born in Miami, Oklahoma on August 5th, 1973, to Raymond and Phyllis Postoak. James grew up in Jay, Oklahoma with his two brothers, Douglas and Kirk Postoak. He graduated from Jay High School in 1991 as an honor student, where he was also the yearbook editor. James went on to study at Oklahoma City University, where he was a member of Kappa Sigma. James eventually decided to pursue his passion for emergency medicine at Missouri Southern. He graduated in 1998 as a paramedic. James initially went to work for Grove EMS, then Air-Evac as a flight medic. He then decided in 2003 to take his skills into the city. And his career took him to IMSA in Tulsa, Oklahoma, where he spent 9 years. During James' time at IMSA, he received the Star of Life for his expertise and heroic actions, always going above and beyond the call of duty. James was promoted to Field Operations Supervisor in 2010, and he was considered one of the best teachers, preceptors, just all around one of the best people we had. He was regarded by his students as knowledgeable, approachable, confident, and inspiring. He spoke very, very highly of his partners and had a long request of medics to work with him. Throughout the years, his wish to be a career flight medic grew stronger, and in late 2012, he applied with Metaflight, Oklahoma. James was hired through Air Methods and attended Flight Academy in Denver, Colorado in February. And at the time of his death, he had just completed his internship with Tulsa Lifeline, and he had been cleared to fly as a primary crew member. James was stationed at Metaflight 3 in Lawton, Oklahoma. He beamed with pride while wearing his flight suit and often shared pictures and jokes with us concerning his new position. James was known statewide within the uniform community for his humor and sarcasm. We're all pretty aware of that. His ability to lighten any situation and bring humor to the darkest days inspired the community of emergency workers. We could always count on a one-liner from Postoak to ease the situation. It seemed as though James personally branded all of his favorite things. And anyone familiar with James, can list his favorite jeans, singers, sunglasses, cocktail drink, TV show, and weekend getaway. James was preceded in death by his father Raymond Postoak, grandparents Ike and Lou Ella Postoak, and Riley and Gladys Dillner, co-worker Lisa Abels, and Mary Frederick. James leaves behind a host of family and friends to mourn his loss, including Mother Phyllis Dillner, Postoak of Jay, Oklahoma, and his brothers Kirk Postoak and Douglas Postoak of Jay, Oklahoma. James was very proud of his nephew, Hayes Branton, and planned to introduce him to Louis Vuitton and Madonna very early. So it shouldn't be a surprise, I suppose. He is also survived by his special cousin, Jamie Woods, aunts and uncles Sam and Janice Quick of Wyandotte, Judy Dillner of Marvin Frost, Jerry Dillner and Lois Johnson, all of Wyandotte, Joyce and Dwayne Passo of Peculiar, Missouri, Edison Postoak of Tulsa, Oklahoma, Nadine Postoak of Silent Springs, Arkansas, Adelo Postoak, LaShania and Jody Henson of Kansas, Oklahoma, and George Postoak of Leach, as well as apparently a plethora of other family members that would just go on and on. James leaves many friends that he considered family behind also, some of whom we'll hear from today. His Chihuahua, Sean Preston, who's here with us today as well. Sean Preston was not a pet, but rather who he referred to as his fur child. He lavished with Prada leashes and gourmet food. And Sean Preston's care and well-being was less spelled out in James's will. That was from the obituary that was in the Tulsa World yesterday. It's not word for word, but it's pretty close. From my understanding, it was one of, if not the longest they'd ever published, ever. That should say something about, well, it's just a testament to James's life. there's so many more things we could say, and I'll mention a few of them myself and then read one more thing for you. I became a supervisor several years before James, but I found myself on a shift with him, working nights, and I found myself tested nightly. He had a way of making you have to do better than you already were doing. You felt like you were doing real well, and then realized you had to catch up with him. James found himself in the middle of everything he could get into. And like I said, it just pushed the rest of us to do a little bit more. He personally made me strive to do my job better. He did that with everything that he did, though. He did that with everyone who was around him. You were around him and you wanted to be a better paramedic or better EMT or better manager. It's the way James was. It's a little bit brave to say in a room filled with the EMS professionals that we're in, but I would venture to say that he was, if not the best, one of the best paramedics I've ever known in my life. And it wasn't all about his book knowledge and that. Being a paramedic, we all know, requires more than that. It requires something inside you, something you can just reach in and find, and you can't be afraid to do things when it comes to that. And James wasn't afraid to do anything. I think we all know that as well. He would tell us today, well, it was spelled out in his will, very detailed, what we should do today, should something happen to him. Not just take care of his beloved dog, fur child, in trouble, but everything. Everything was spelled out. The folks that are going to speak today, that was spelled out. Everything was spelled out for us, and that was James. There was no question as to what he wanted from you, and he wasn't afraid to tell you that, even after death. He's not afraid to tell us what to do. And I think that's James all over. I think James would caution us though. Don't look back at me, he would say, don't look back at me, remember me, but don't look back. Move forward always. There's so much more work to be done, so many more things to do to carry on James's legacy, to be honest with you. The lives that James touched, I mean, standing room only pretty much in here, and that says something. But it's immeasurable the number of lives James touched as a paramedic. The number of lives saved, the number of hands held, and that's who James was. Here in a minute, like I said, we're going to hear from a few more of his friends. But first, I was asked to read this. It's a letter from Jim Jordan. Many of us know Jim, but those who don't, Jim is a manager at IMSA, has been a supervisor for a while, and was one of the people who trained James before he was cleared as a supervisor. Jim writes, how do we say goodbye to someone we do not want to say goodbye to? The answer to that question is simply we can't. None of us want to say goodbye to someone that was such a loyal and loving friend, so we come here today to both mourn his passing and celebrate his life. We could talk for hours about his legendary skills as a medic. We could talk even longer about his legendary off-duty adventures. I should pause and think about that for a minute. But I submit to you, my friends, that all those stories really are just a tiny glimpse into the heart and soul of this young man. James' skills and adventures were a symptom of his passion for life and living. In everything he did, it was with such strong conviction that he could not rein it in. He was not happy, as some are, just to be a medic. He had to be the best medic. But not just the best medic somewhere, but the best medic everywhere. Many of you here today have witnessed him work his magic, felt the gentle or not so gentle shove to be a better medic person, or experienced his unshakable loyalty as a friend. Some of us have even been his patients and know firsthand that he expressed his compassion for you by pushing himself to be the best paramedic anywhere. James was one of the last people I had the privilege to be a part of training to become a field supervisor at IMSA. We had many long conversations about the job and life. We did not always agree on some issues, but we had an understanding. Our differing views would never get in the way of our shared passion for our profession. I recall James sitting at the supervisor desk, soaking up every bit of information, asking more questions than I could answer, and writing everything down. His passion for the job pushed me to be better. And though it sometimes unnerved me, I knew that he would soon become my mentor. James was just that kind of person. Ultimately, I knew our patients and fellow medics would benefit from his presence on our team, and they did. In the early morning hours, sometimes you can see a glimpse of a shooting star streaking across the sky. James is our shooting star in EMS. He was spectacular and beautiful, and our lives have been made better because of a glimpse of him. Jim Jordan. I don't know what else could be said anymore. Just as I said, well, with me, he had that way about, like Jim said, becoming your mentor, whether you intended that or not. Jim Jordan's been in EMS for a long, long time. But even Jim knew that James had a way about him that could teach us all a little bit of something. Now we're going to hear from a few more of James's friends. We're going to start with Sherry Dent.
Last week changed our lives forever. I have to be honest, I'm pretty sure I went through every stage of the grieving process in less than an hour. I was mad. I was mad at God for putting this man into my life that meant so much to every one of us in this room today, and then taking him from us so suddenly. Then I realized how blessed I was to know James and to have him in my life, and what a difference he made in all of our lives. I have never in my life met anyone that even came close to comparing to James Postoak. He was intelligent, confident, funny, and determined. He knew what he wanted. He never let anything stop him from achieving his goals and dreams. I know a lot of people say they felt intimidated by James, when in fact the whole time he was teaching us to be more confident in ourselves and be better medics and be better people, and to not ever be afraid of what and who you truly are. James was a mentor to a lot of us, which made us strive to be better. I was so upset when I found out what his wishes were. I thought, how could he possibly expect me to stay strong enough to get through this? And then it all became very clear to me, to all of us. He very clearly stated no crying. And he knew we would keep you all laughing and never let his memory fade. This is an honor. Thank you, James. James was very well known for being a legend in EMS. It didn't matter if someone actually knew him or not. Everyone knew his name, Postoak. Oh yes, I've heard of him. I'm sure they had. He was one of the best partners I ever had on that ambulance. But I will tell you one thing. If you were working with him, you had to be one step ahead of him at all times and do what you already needed to